The wind howls across the Alberta plains. A single rider moves through the open field, her silhouette small against the endless sky. The horses sense something coming, something wild. At Heartland Ranch, peace never lasts for long. Every challenge leaves a mark, and every ride brings a new storm. In the next chapter of Heartland, courage will be tested, hearts will be shaken, the wilderness will reveal who truly belongs to it. This is your first look at Heartland Season 19, Episode 4, Braving the Wilderness. Asterisk, the morning light spills over the foothills, golden and calm, but at Heartland.com, rarely stays. The episode opens with Amy out in the pasture, her horse restless beneath her. The scene feels peaceful, yet the air carries tension. The land looks beautiful, but there's a quiet warning in the wind. It's as if the wilderness itself is waiting for something, or someone, to push too far. Amy's voice, steady but thoughtful, sets the tone. She's been through storms before, loss, love, and the long path of healing, but this time, something feels different. The wild doesn't wait for anyone, she says softly. You either face it, or it swallows you whole. That single line captures the soul of braving the wilderness. It's not just about survival in nature. It's about survival within. This episode takes Amy and the entire Heartland family into unfamiliar emotional territory. The wilderness outside becomes a mirror of the wilderness inside them all. As Amy trains a young, spirited horse that refuses to be tamed, the story begins to draw parallels between her struggle and her own life. She's learning that control isn't the same as trust, and sometimes strength means letting go. The cinematography lingers on every detail, the horse's trembling muscles, Amy's hands tightening on the reins, the flash of fear and determination in her eyes. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, Jack senses the same change in the air. He's been the rock of Heartland for generations, but even rocks crack under pressure. He watches the sky, mutters something about an early storm, and for a moment, the audience feels that he's not just talking about the weather. The storm might be something deeper, something that will test every bond in the Fleming Bartlett family as the sun sets. Lou stands by the fence, phone in hand, torn between two worlds, her family and her work. Her silence says everything. Heartland has always been about choices, staying or leaving, holding on or letting go, and in this episode, every character faces a version of that same choice. The first act closes with a haunting image. Amy riding into the wilderness, the sky bruised with thunderclouds. The camera pulls back slowly until the ranch is just a dot in the distance. The music swells, a soft mix of violin and wind. The feeling is clear. Whatever's coming next, Heartland is about to be tested like never before. Because in the wild, it's not the storm that defines you. It's how you ride through it. Asterisk. Dust still hangs in the air from what the last episode left behind. Heartland has always been a place of second chances, but lately those chances seem harder to find. In the quiet moments after the storm, memories cling to the ranch like fog, unshakable, heavy and familiar. Last week, everything felt on the edge. Amy faced a crossroads in her journey as a horse whisperer. The wild stallion she tried to connect with refused to trust, mirroring her own guarded heart. It wasn't just about taming a horse. It was about learning how to open up again after loss. The kind of pain that hides beneath silence. Jack, the backbone of Heartland, struggled with something he wouldn't say out loud. He's the man who's seen every sunrise and every heartbreak on this land, yet even he can feel time pressing on him. He tries to carry everyone's weight, but the truth is, his shoulders are getting tired. His quiet glances across the dinner table said more than words ever could. Lou, driven as ever, faced her own battle, torn between her duties as mayor and her longing to be present at the ranch. The endless phone calls, meetings, and headlines pull her away, yet she knows where her heart truly belongs. Still, being everywhere at once has a cost. Heartland is built on family, but sometimes ambition builds walls where love once stood, and Tim, fierce. Proud, restless Tim continues to fight with ghosts only he can see. His instincts are strong, but his temper stronger. When it comes to protecting family, he leads with fire, not patience. In Episode 3, We saw that fire nearly burn bridges that took years to rebuild. His argument with Jack was more than stubborn pride. It was fear. Fear of losing control, of losing family, of becoming a man he doesn't recognize anymore. In the midst of it all, Lindy, young, bright, and full of the same spirit Amy once had, reminds everyone what Heartland truly stands for. Her laughter, her questions, her way of seeing magic in the simple things keeps the ranch alive. She's the symbol of what they're all fighting for. Hope, legacy, and the belief that even broken things can heal. Episode 3 ended on a note that still echoes in the minds of fans. Amy stood by the old fence post at dusk, her hand on the wood her father once built. She looked out toward the open plains, where the last of the sunlight touched the grass like fire. Her eyes were full of questions about life, love, and the courage to start again. The camera lingered, and we all knew the wilderness wasn't far away. Now, as episode 4 begins, the air feels charged, full of something unseen. Every step, every whisper of wind, carries a sense of change. Braving the wilderness doesn't just pick up where the story left off, it transforms it. It's about leaving behind comfort and facing what's wild, unknown, and true. Because at Heartland, healing doesn't come easy. It comes when you ride forward, even when you don't know what's waiting beyond the horizon. The wilderness has always been more than a setting in Heartland. It's a living character, wild, untamed, and honest. It doesn't bend to anyone's will. It reveals the truth. It's even when the people of Heartland aren't ready to face it. Episode 4 begins with the wind rising before dawn. The horses are uneasy, pacing in their stalls as if they sense the shift coming. Amy steps outside, the cold air biting at her skin, and for a moment, the world feels still, the kind of stillness that happens right before everything changes. The camera follows her footsteps through the dew-soaked grass, each one a quiet reminder that peace never stays forever. The episode title, Braving the Wilderness, captures everything about where these characters are headed. It's not just the physical wilderness, it's emotional, spiritual, personal. For Amy, it's the battle between what she can control and what she must let go of. For Jack, it's learning to accept that even strong roots must someday give way to new growth. For Lou, it's about finding balance between who she is for the world and who she wants to be for herself. The episode's early scenes are stunning, the camera drenched in golden light, the mountains painted in soft shadow, but beneath the beauty, there's tension. Something fragile is about to break. Amy takes a new horse, a wild mare rescued from the foothills, out for her first training session. The mare doesn't respond to her touch. Every flick of its tail, every defiant snort, reflects Amy's own inner storm. The bond she tries to build becomes a mirror of her struggle with trust and with herself. Back at the ranch, Jack is in the barn, mending an old saddle. His hands move with the slow rhythm of years, but his eyes are distant. When Lisa walks in, asking if he's all right, he simply says, "Just getting ready for what's coming." It's the kind of line that sticks, one that feels simple on the surface, but carries the weight of experience. Jack knows storms, both the ones that flood the land and the ones that tear families apart. Meanwhile, Lou faces a different kind of wilderness, the kind that lives in choices. Her mayoral duties are pulling her into town more often, and her time at Heartland grows thinner with every week. She's trying to hold on to the image of the ranch while living a life that keeps pulling her away from it. Her phone rings constantly. Her laptop never closes. But when she looks at the ranch from her office window, her face softens as if she knows the world she's fighting to hold on to is slowly slipping out of reach. Tim, ever stubborn, is planning something bold, a new training program that pushes the horses and riders beyond what anyone expects. But his intensity sparks old disagreements with Jack. What starts as a discussion about ranch work turns into a deep, unspoken debate about legacy, about what kind of men they want to be remembered as. By the halfway mark of the episode, all these stories start to braid together, each character walking their own path through the wilderness, unaware that they're heading toward the same emotional crossroads. The tone of Braving the Wilderness is clear: to move forward. Each of them must step into the unknown, and the wild doesn't wait for those who hesitate, as the camera pans over the rolling hills at sunset. Amy whispers something to her horse, words almost lost to the wind. We can't stay safe forever. It's not just dialogue. It's a message to everyone at Heartland. And to us. Because sometimes you have to lose the path to truly find where you belong. Every story in Heartland is written not just in words but in glances, silences, and the space between breaths. Episode 4, Braving the Wilderness, dives deep into those quiet moments where emotion speaks louder than dialogue. It's an episode that doesn't shout. It aches. Amy's storyline becomes the beating heart of the episode. Out in the open range, she works with the wild mare again, this time under an endless gray sky. The scene isn't about training anymore, it's about trust. The mare's fear mirrors Amy's own hesitation to let anyone close again. Since losing Ty, her strength has come from keeping control, from holding the reins too tightly. But this episode asks a harder question. Can healing begin when you stop trying to control the pain? As Amy reaches out, the camera lingers on her hand, trembling slightly before it touches the horse's neck. No words are spoken, just the sound of breathing, the wind, and the slow breaking of walls. That's Heartland at its finest, emotion told through stillness. Meanwhile, Jack's arc feels like a slow-burning confession. He spends much of the episode alone in the barn, his old hat hanging beside him, his hands covered in dust and memory. When Lindy wanders in, asking why he looks sad, Jack smiles that quiet, weathered smile. "I'm not sad, kiddo," he says. "Just thinking about the things I can't fix." That line cuts deep, not because it's dramatic, but because it's honest. Jack's story this season is about letting go of the need to fix everything, to accept that sometimes love means listening instead of mending. Lou's journey runs parallel, but in the opposite direction. Her challenge isn't about letting go, it's about holding on. Between city meetings and ranch calls, she's losing sight of who she is outside of the titles and deadlines. When she returns home late one evening, the porch light still on, she finds Amy sitting quietly on the steps. No music, no big conversation. Just two sisters, watching the stars in silence. The world around them fades, and for a brief moment, they remember what it means to belong, not just to a place, but to each other. Tim's fire continues to blaze, but it's not aimless this time. Beneath his rough edges, there's guilt. Guilt over choices made, over words said in anger. He tries to mask it with action, pushing the horses and the riders harder than ever. But when he catches a glimpse of Jack resting on the fence, quietly proud yet tired, something in him softens. The man who spent a lifetime running finally begins to slow down. And then there's Lindy, the light in all this shadow. Her innocence becomes a reminder that hope still exists. A simple moment, her guiding the wild mare to water, becomes one of the most beautiful scenes of the episode. The mare, once frightened and fierce, bows its head to drink. Amy watches, her eyes glistening. The message is clear. The next generation carries the calm their elders have been searching for. Every character in this episode is braving a different kind of wilderness. For Amy, it's emotional. For Jack, it's time. For Lou, it's identity. For Tim, it's forgiveness. And for Lindy, it's the discovery of courage. Their paths don't just cross, they reflect one another. By the time the night falls over Heartland, the ranch feels both fragile and strong. The porch light flickers, the horses rest, and the land exhales. The wilderness, once feared, now feels like home, vast, wild. But somehow comforting, because in Heartland, courage doesn't come from fighting the storm. It comes from standing still long enough to feel it and trusting that, in the end, the light will always find its way back. Would you like me to continue with Section 5? Ending, call to emotion, and action next, to give your video script a cinematic and emotionally satisfying ending that leaves view asterisk. Night falls over Heartland like a soft blanket, quiet and endless. The ranch glows under the moonlight, fences silvered, fields dark and still. The storm that once threatened the land has passed, but its echo remains in the hearts of everyone who calls this place home. There's a kind of peace that follows pain, not because everything is fixed, but because everyone finally understands that not all wounds need mending to be meaningful. Amy stands at the edge of the pasture, the same spot where the wild mare once refused her touch. Now, the horse stands beside her, calm, breathing in rhythm with her. The camera holds this moment just long enough for the silence to say everything. Healing has begun. Not loudly, not all at once, but like the dawn, steady and certain. Jack joins her, a familiar presence, his voice rough yet full of warmth. "You did good today," he says, but Amy doesn't answer. She just smiles, not out of pride, but relief. It's the smile of someone who has finally stopped fighting the wind and learned to ride with it. Inside the house, Lou closes her laptop, the screen fading to black. For the first time in days, she allows herself to rest. The clock ticks softly as she looks out the window toward the barn. The life she's been chasing out there in the world suddenly feels smaller than the one waiting right here. Her story, like everyone's, is about finding her way back, not to a place, but to a purpose. Tim walks along the fence line, his silhouette fading into the night. The man who spent a lifetime running finally stops. He takes off his hat, looks up at the stars, and lets the silence wash over him. Maybe for the first time, he isn't thinking about what's next. He's just here. The wilderness has stripped him down to something raw and real, and in that stillness, he finds peace. Then there's Lindy, her laughter breaking the silence like bird song. She runs across the yard barefoot, chasing fireflies that dance in the dark. Amy watches from the porch, her eyes soft with pride and hope. Lindy represents everything Heartland stands for, the belief that love, no matter how tested, always grows back stronger. The final moments of braving the wilderness are quiet but powerful. No big speeches, no sudden drama. Just the family gathered for dinner, the clinking of forks, the sound of laughter returning to the walls. The wilderness outside is still vast and wild, but now it feels like a friend, not a threat. As the screen fades to black, a single line echoes over the soft instrumental music. The wild doesn't change you. It shows you who you already are. That's the heart of episode 4. It's not about surviving the wilderness. It's about embracing it. The unknown, the unplanned, the untamed parts of life. The parts that make us stronger, softer, more human then. The music swells, violins mixing with the sound of wind and distant hooves. The voiceover returns, calm and steady. Heartland, Season 19, Episode 4, Braving the Wilderness. Where hearts are tested, courage is found, and love keeps riding on. Don't miss the next chapter, only on CBC. The video fades out with the image of Amy riding into the horizon, the rising sun painting the sky gold. No words, no fanfare. Just motion endless, hopeful, and free. Because at Heartland, the story never really ends. It just rides forward, into the wilderness.